today's video, we're going to walk through what are some of the key things you should be looking for as a subscription box company when looking to work with the 3PL. Subscription box model over the past couple years has gotten super popular in e-commerce. It's a great business model from the e-commerce perspective, but one of the ongoing challenges that a lot of these companies face is on the side of fulfillment. And so we're going to talk through what are some of the strategies and things you should be thinking about. Is a 3PL right for you? And if so, how do you go about finding a good one? We'll also talk about some of the unique challenges that as a subscription box business you might face that you might not traditionally run into in other forms of e-commerce. So with all that said, let's go ahead and jump on into the video. Subscription box companies have a ton of different unique things about them when it comes to the fulfillment and shipping of their products. There are really two kind of ways I see this done most commonly. Number one is maybe let's say on the 15th of the month, they ship all of the subscriptions for that entire month. They all go out on that one day. And then there's also kind of like a rolling model. So if it's ordered on the 2nd, then you would get it on the 2nd every month. And if another customer has it on 5th, they get it on the 5th. So it's just on the day of the month that you ordered it in, right? Either of these present a few different challenges. If you are grouping all these together and shipping them all on the 15th or the 3rd or whatever it is, right? You have a lot of more inventory prep. And when working with a fulfillment partner, a lot more communication needs to go on there to be able to maybe prepare those ahead of time, because if you just drop 2,000 orders on your fulfillment partner day of, they're probably not going to get them all out if they're not used to it or expecting it. Versus if you have a rolling, they might have 15, 20 orders a day or whatever that might look like numbers wise. There's a lot higher likelihood and easier for the fulfillment partner to be able to actually get those out, right? Because they can count on those similar numbers every day. And along with this comes things like custom packaging. Most subscription companies that I see are doing some sort of custom packaging, whether that's inserts or custom boxes or mailers or tape, whatever it may be. It is because it's a subscription, people expect more out of it. And so from the 3PL perspective, or as the brand working with a 3PL, you have to be really clear on what your guidelines are and what you want actually done, because if you want custom boxes, that's going to have to be communicated ahead of time and planned for. And working with a 3PL, a lot of them are going to want to like pre-prep those things, right? Because as the 3PL, if you know you have 1,000 orders coming in on a Tuesday, the week before you're going to want to prep those and get them ready. So all that you have to do when the time comes is put a label on them and get them out the door. You also might have a rolling model where maybe they prep 100 a week, but generally speaking, even if you were doing your own fulfillment, you would be doing a similar thing, because you don't want to be configuring all these boxes at time of shipping. It's not as efficient as pre-prepping and sending out. Now, this doesn't work, right, if you have super complex subscription boxes where every customer gets a different thing. That's almost like a whole different model in itself. We're really just talking about consistent subscription boxes here, but a lot of those do custom packaging. And so that is something that you need to work around or have a plan for how you're going to go about managing that. And along with that kind of ties back to inventory, right? So like we talked about a little bit, you have to have enough inventory at wherever you're going to ship from before you even have to prep those boxes. A lot of times you'll see these subscription box companies inventory planning 6, 9, 12 months out by the time they get the product made into the supplier. And if they're doing custom packaging, there's so many different factors that play into this that you really have to be really prepared, especially because if you have to ship on the 15th, you can't miss that ship day. So in turn, you need to be prepping way ahead of time. So your stuff's ready to go on the 5th, on the 10th, right? And your 3PL has it ready to get out of the door on the 15th so that your customers are not sitting around waiting, because as a customer ordering a subscription box, you're going to be expecting to get that on the same day every month or within a very close range. It can't be varying a huge amount of days one way or the other. This gets a little more complicated too if you're offering 10 different variations of this subscription box. So let's say you have a dog toy brand, right? And maybe you have one for small dogs and one for medium dogs and one for large dogs, and maybe there's treats that go in all of them. Well, you're gonna have to do all of your inventory and stock planning and forecasting around knowing which SKUs are in all of them, which ones are only in specific ones, and a lot of the times if you have a toy for each one, right, those might come from different suppliers. And so it's a lot of coordination and making sure all of the goods arrive correctly at the warehouse, at your 3PL, make sure they're inspected, they're put into inventory, then so they can get kitted ahead of time. There's just a ton of little steps here that I think commonly get overlooked, and then you get to the time of having to ship your stuff and it gets like, oh, what do we do now? All of our stuff isn't here and we need to ship this on the 15th. And so it's just a common thing I see all the time. And so it's one of the things I always warn people to be super cautious of when working with subscription companies, is like, make sure that your inventory forecasting is accurate and you are on top of that. So those are a lot of the unique challenges that subscription box companies face. But when we look at the actual fulfillment of it, maybe you're doing your own self-fulfillment, maybe you're working with a 3PL, but what are some of the main benefits that you get out of working with a 3PL? One of the first things that always comes to mind for me when working with a 3PL is you get this infinite labor pool almost, right? So you could have 100 orders one month and 1,000 the next, and your 3PL is going to adapt up and down to meet those order volumes within reason. Whereas you're shipping your own stuff out of your own fulfillment center, subscription boxes, you can kind of get away with it a little bit, but like I said, like people are expecting their stuff on a similar day every month, and if you have one person who now has 10 times the order volume, those orders are going to get spread out. Customers are going to be like, why is my stuff delayed? There's a lot of second, third, and fourth order effects of having those late orders. And so by using a 3PL, you kind of get to use their labor to make sure that no matter what, those boxes are going out on time, assuming all your inventory is there. One of the coolest parts too about working with a 3PL when it comes to subscription box is location really matters even less than it typically would with normal e-commerce. Due to the fact that you know your subscription date renewal, right? Whether you're doing a rolling or a standard like every month on the 15th, you know what day you're shipping and you can plan so far ahead that you get the luxury of choosing who you want to work with versus choosing off of location, which is super high volume brand, right? Maybe 20, 30, 40,000 orders a month might have to work with either dual nodes, so one on the West and East Coast or one in the Midwest. But because you're a subscription box, your delivery time is super predictable. You know what date things need to ship on, you know what date things should be arriving by. And so you do get the luxury of being a little more selective with choosing great partners instead of optimizing for cost and location. Because a lot of the time you can optimize for like 2 out of the 3 things: cost, location, and good partners. And with the subscription model, you kind of eliminate the location part of that. So you get to choose a great partner at a great cost. And that's always been super unique to me about subscription boxes. And one of the reasons I'm such a big fan of them is I think a lot of the brands that do subscription boxes really well do the fulfillment and shipping part really well in the brand experience because they have the time to thoughtfully come up with the packaging and making sure their stuff is there on time and being very prepared to create a great customer experience. So whether you're shipping your own packages or you're at a 3PL, maybe you're looking for a better 3PL, what are the things that you should be looking for or asking your 3PL partners potentially that you're talking to? One first thing that comes to mind if I was looking is I'd be like, do you have any other subscription box companies you're working with? I would love to talk to them. And just in those conversations from to talk to other customers of the 3PL, you'll get a very quick idea of what is it like to work with them? How's their communication style? What has the success of you working with them been like? Have they been hitting their SLAs? All those sorts of things you're going to find out very quickly. And you're just going to get like a general vibe of like, are these people that I want to work with? There's so many different 3PLs and everyone kind of has their own little niche. And so finding a great partner for you is they're totally out there. Sometimes there's a little extra searching required, but they definitely do exist. And I think this is so important specifically to subscription boxes because there is so much nuance to it, right? Being able to prep the packaging materials and having a process in place for how you're going to prep 10,000 subscription boxes a week before they need to go out is a very different process from a standard pick, pack, ship for 50 clients that are shipping 100 orders a day. And without having that existing process in place, I've seen a lot of projects get taken on by 3PLs that might not be set up for that sort of thing. And it just causes a lot of headache down the line because they're making an exception. The customer thinks that this is what they should be doing. And brand is upset because their stuff isn't necessarily going out on time because the 3PL doesn't have the right process for it. And so as much as that is on the 3PL, I think it's equally on the brand. You need to do your vetting correctly to understand who you're working with and do they have those processes in place. The other awesome thing with subscription boxes that's unique when working with a 3PL is you have this weird opportunity to do a tryout program because you are on a subscription basis. If you are in the model where you ship on the 15th or 1 day a month or maybe 2 days a month, whatever it is, you have the ability to do a trial process because you can send them near exact amounts of inventory that you know you're going to need, see what it's like to work with them through the process of going through a full month, right? Making sure those orders go out, are they packaged correctly? Versus like traditional e-com, you'd have to send all your inventory somewhere, then you'd have to make sure that they're doing a good job, and then by the time you figure out they're not, it's really difficult to switch and expensive. But with subscription boxes, it is actually really unique because a lot of the times you're not going to just stock 10,000, 20,000 units throughout the year. You're going to be continuously ordering as those subscription boxes need to go out. So I think the subscription model is super interesting, both from the 3PL side and from a brand working with 3PLs. I think that you kind of get the best of both worlds versus a traditional pick and pack e-commerce model. But every model has their pros and cons, and there's definitely some other more challenging things that come along with the subscription stuff. Now, let's say you are already in the process of working with a 3PL. What are some of the common things that I would be avoiding or making sure that I don't fall into the trap of? Like I kind of already mentioned, I think choosing solely off location or price is really difficult. I think that it's definitely something that needs to be taken into consideration, but whether it's for subscription boxes or really any kind of product that you're working with a 3PL on, like at the end of the day, want to make sure you have a good partner in them and someone that you can trust and build a good relationship with. That 3PL is an extension of your brand, and they are the last people touching those packages before they get to your customers. And so you want to work with someone that's going to care as much about your business as you would if you were shipping those packages, because at the core of e-commerce is that customer experience. And without that, it's really hard for a brand to grow. Another really easy thing I think to overlook is not getting a full understanding of the customization possibilities that a 3PL might be able to offer. So like we talked about, most of these subscription companies, if you are running one, you're probably doing some sort of custom inserts or packaging or something special for your customers, right? And not all 3PLs support custom packaging. Some of them might support a custom box, but if one day comes along and you want to add tissue paper in or a handwritten note, are they going to be able to support that? And so thinking ahead of things that you might want to be able to do are great questions to be asking your 3PL before you end up signing with someone or working with someone, to understand, right now, here's what we're doing, but in my wildest dreams, in 6 months, maybe I want to do X, Y, or Z. For example, we heard from a company the other day that was looking for merchandise, but we got into the conversation of like, okay, where do you see the business going and where do you see it growing? And like, oh, well, we actually need to do food as well. And that's very different, right? That now requires temperature control and a lot of other requirements. And so thinking about those things ahead of time, and think your wildest dreams and ask your 3PL if it's something they offer. Even if the answer is no, you might go with them anyways. It's a good thing just to ask and understand where their boundaries are. One other factor that you might not be thinking about is understanding what kind of software does your 3PL use. Most 3PLs these days are using some sort of cloud-based solution. They're all kind of similar, but just understanding which one your 3PL uses, how easy it is for your customer service reps to use, how can you do the common things like editing orders, fixing addresses, how fast can you solve those customer support requests? It's something that's commonly overlooked, but I do think is really important, because if you're able to make these edits that you might need to be able to make in 20 seconds versus 5 minutes and a support ticket, all of a sudden you're cutting down on a lot of time and becoming a lot more efficient with your own time. And so not make or break, but just something to be aware of and understand. What is that technology like? Do their other customers like it? Things like that I think are just super helpful to be thinking about. So yeah, those are the things that I think about and would be thinking about, both from the brand and the 3PL side. Subscription box companies are super unique and honestly, I think a really fun kind of company or brand to be running. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful. If you have any other questions, please leave a comment below, give us a like and a subscribe. It helps us out. We run our own 3PL in the background, as you can see. We are based in Portland, Oregon, and we support a bunch of growing e-commerce brands. So if there's anything we can help you with, please feel free to let us know. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Happy shipping.